My dad beat me and threw me into a blizzard after believing my brother's lie, but what happened after that night changed everything. Reddit stories. I staggered through the storm bleeding and half-conscious while Damon watched me collapse without blinking. The fallout that followed, police, courts, and a mother pushed past her breaking point, set off a chain of consequences none of them saw coming. Hi, I'm Hunter, 18, and when I was 13 I learned two very important things in the span of one Michigan snowstorm. Hypothermia is not as peaceful as movies pretend, and my dad would believe my brother Damon over me even if Damon told him the sky was made of lasagna. But I'm getting ahead of myself. From the outside, we were painfully average. Dad ran a body shop in Lansing and came home every evening smelling like engine grease and frustration. Mom handled bookkeeping for a few local businesses, basically made sure the household didn't collapse under Dad's temper and Damon's ego. And me? The quiet kid in the basement with a pair of drumsticks and dreams of not being yelled at before breakfast. Damon and I used to get along, back when our biggest argument was who got the blue popsicle. But somewhere around my first year of middle school, he discovered his true calling, industrial-grade lying. The kid could have run a con cartel by 9th grade. And Dad, who treated skepticism like a foreign language, bought every word. $20 missing? Dad. Hunter did it. Damon frowns tragically. Me grounded. Truck dented? Dad. Hunter threw something. Damon nods solemnly. Me, phone gone for a month. Eventually the punishments blended together, painting the basement, losing electronics, random lectures about respect. I started writing it all down in a notebook because it was the only way to convince myself I wasn't imagining the insanity. By the time everything finally blew up, I had 42 entries. 42 lies. 42 punishments. 0 apologies. Mom saw pieces of it. She'd watch with this tight, trapped expression whenever Dad started in on me, then whisper later. Just let it go, honey. Be the bigger person. Which was ironic, considering I weighed about as much as a backpack and Dad had fists like concrete cinder blocks. Then came December. The kind of winter where the air hurts your face on purpose. Mom had to leave for Grand Rapids because my grandmother, her mother, was seriously ill. She planned to stay the week. She stocked the freezer, left instructions, kissed my forehead, and told Dad to keep things calm. Which was like asking a tornado to behave itself. The first few days weren't terrible. I kept my head down. Dad stayed late at the shop. Damon lurked around acting guilty about something, but I didn't have the emotional budget to investigate. Then Thursday happened. I'd barely gotten home from school before Dad's truck roared into the driveway 2 hours early. That was my first clue something was wrong. The second clue was him shouting my name with that tone that makes your stomach drop into your shoes. In the living room, Damon sat on the couch looking like he was auditioning for Victim of the Year. Dad stood above him, veins in his neck doing their own interpretive dance. And on the coffee table? My grandfather's Omega Seamaster. Or what used to be one. The crystal shattered. The metal crushed. It looked like someone had taken a hammer to it until they ran out of arm strength. Dad didn't ask questions. Didn't breathe. Didn't blink. You stole it, he said. You broke the only thing I had left of him. I hadn't even known the thing was out of the locked box it lived in. But Damon looked up, eyes shimmering with fake tears, and whispered. I tried to stop him. And just like that, Dad's reality folded into a shape that hurt only me. He dragged me upstairs, threw me into my room, locked the door, and shouted that he'd deal with me in the morning. I sat on the edge of my bed, shaking, staring at the walls I'd repainted as punishment for something Damon had done months earlier. Something in my gut, deep and cold, told me that this wasn't the usual. Hunter gets yelled at until he cries. Routine. This time felt different. This time felt dangerous. And I was right. What came next would break my ribs, freeze my skin, and rewrite the rest of my life. Dad didn't sleep that night. I could hear him pacing downstairs, heavy, angry footsteps, the kind that creak floorboards and make you flinch even through a closed door. Every so often he'd shout something I couldn't make out, followed by the thud of a cabinet slamming. Damon had gone silent, probably practicing whatever new lie he'd deploy in the morning. I barely slept either. Every time I drifted off, I'd flash back to the sight of that destroyed watch. That thing was sacred to Dad, kept in a locked box, off limits, practically worshipped. Whoever smashed it didn't just want to frame me. They wanted to nuke the relationship between Dad and me completely. And Damon? Yeah. It wasn't exactly a mystery. By morning, Dad's temper had simmered into something worse, an eerie, laser-focused quiet. He unlocked my door not with a shout, but with a soft, cold, "Downstairs." Now. I followed him to the kitchen. Damon was already there, leaning against the counter, face arranged into the perfect blend of regret and big brother disappointment. He didn't even look at me, just at Dad, like he was reporting for duty. Dad held a printed appraisal estimate in his hand, crumpled from how tightly he was gripping it. $6,000, he said, voice flat. That's what your little tantrum cost. I didn't touch it, I said. Quiet. Careful. I'd learned that volume only made him hit faster. He stepped closer. Damon told me what he saw. Yeah, I'm sure he did. He saw you sneaking out of my room, Dad said. He confronted you. You cursed at him. You shoved him. And then you. He shook the paper so hard it ripped. You smashed the only keepsake I had from my father. On purpose. It was all I could do not to laugh. Bitterly. Hysterically. On purpose. Right. Dad, I said. I didn't even go near your room. Why would I? That was as far as I got. He grabbed my shirt, yanked me forward, and slammed me into the fridge so hard my vision blinked. Damon didn't move. Didn't blink. Just watched. You're going to repay me, Dad hissed. Every penny. You'll work until you do. You'll hand over every paycheck for as long as it takes. I didn't do it. Wrong answer. His fist connected with my cheek so fast I didn't have time to brace. The world rang. The floor spun. When I hit the tile, the impact sent pain shooting up my ribs. He didn't yell this time. He didn't need to. He dragged me upright by the collar and hit me again. And again. And again. It wasn't punishment anymore. It was rage, pure and stupid and blinding. I tried to shield my face, but he tore my arms away and drove his fist into my ribs. Something popped. I couldn't breathe. The room shrank. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. I tasted blood. Through it all, Damon just stood there, calm, collected, observing like he was watching a weather report. When Dad finally stepped back, panting, sweat beading on his forehead, I collapsed onto my side. Every breath felt like I was inhaling fire. Get out, he said. I thought he meant, get up. No. He meant, get out of my house. You want to destroy what's mine? He said. Fine. You can do it somewhere else. It's snowing, I choked out. He shrugged. Should have thought of that before you betrayed this family. He wasn't shouting anymore. That was the scary part. He sounded almost bored. Pack a bag. Then leave. Don't come back. I looked at Damon. He smirked. That tiny smirk did more damage than Dad's fists. Half an hour later, I was standing on the porch with a split lip, a bruised ribcage, a half-zipped backpack, and snow already soaking through my shoes. Dad opened the door behind me one last time. You're not my son anymore. Then he shut it. Locked it. That deadbolt was louder than any punch he threw. For a moment, I just stood there in the blizzard, numb from more than the cold. A part of me wanted to bang on the door. Beg. Plead. Do whatever he wanted if he'd just let me inside. But another part, a part one didn't know existed until that moment, said, walk. Move. Go. My best friend Leo lived 8 blocks away. 8 blocks might as well have been 8 miles in that storm, but it was my only shot. So I tightened my jacket, clutched my ribs, stepped off the porch, and walked straight into the dark and freezing unknown. The first 2 blocks felt like walking through wet cement while someone stabbed my ribs every time I inhaled. Snow hit sideways, big, heavy flakes that stuck to my eyelashes and turned the world into a white blur. The wind didn't blow, it punched. Hard. It felt personal. By block 3, my hands were numb. By block 4, my legs shook. By block 5, every thought in my head slowed until all I could manage was left foot, right foot, don't fall, don't fall. I tried keeping one arm wrapped around my ribs, but the moment I took my hand off my jacket, the wind clawed straight through the fabric. The cold was so sharp it almost felt hot. I don't remember deciding to stop. My body just quit. I leaned against a mailbox, chest heaving, vision tunneling like someone dimmed the world with a remote control. Snow collected in my hair, on my lashes, on my backpack. My fingers burned, then went dead. I'll rest, just a second, I told myself. But then a far-off part of my brain, maybe survival instinct, maybe some health class video I barely remembered, whispered, people freeze to death because they sit down to rest. If I closed my eyes, I wasn't opening them again. Move, Hunter. Move or die. So I pushed off the mailbox and stumbled forward. 2 more blocks. Just 2. But the world kept tilting sideways. The houses blurred. My breath came out in thin wheezes that made my ribs scream. When Leo's house finally appeared through the whiteout, it didn't look like a house, it looked like a miracle. A fuzzy, blinking, crooked miracle. I made it to their driveway, then to the steps, then. I pounded on the door with hands I couldn't feel. The door opened and warm yellow light spilled out. Leo's dad, Carl, built like someone welded a truck together and gave it opinions, stood in the doorway. He didn't say, "What happened?" He didn't ask why I was there. His face went from confusion to horror to rage in half a second. "Jesus, kid, get inside." My legs gave out the moment warmth hit me. Carl caught me under the arms and half carried, half dragged me into the hallway. "Amy!" he shouted. "Get in here now!" I don't remember collapsing. I don't remember Leo running in. I don't remember Amy gasping or the way she cupped my frozen face with shaking hands. What I do remember is the way she said my name, soft, scared, like she was trying not to let me drift off. "Hunter, honey, stay awake. Look at me. Okay? Stay with me." Someone wrapped me in blankets. Someone pulled off my soaked jacket. Someone swore under their breath, low and furious, and I realized it was Carl, seeing the bruises under my shirt. "Who did this?" he asked. I didn't have the strength to answer. "Did your father do this?" I blinked once. Slowly. That was enough. Carl's jaw clenched so hard I heard it. "All right," he said quietly. "Then we're calling the police." I tried shaking my head, mumbling something about not wanting trouble, about Mom not knowing, about Dad getting worse if I made him angry again. But Carl wasn't listening. He was already grabbing the phone. Leo knelt beside the couch, eyes wide, face pale. He didn't say anything at first, just hovered his hand near my shoulder like he wanted to touch, but was afraid I might break apart if he did. Then he whispered, "Dude, what did they do to you?" "That did it." I started crying. Ugly, painful, shaky crying that made my ribs burn and my head spin. Leo didn't say it would be okay. He didn't lie. He just stayed there. The police came within 20 minutes, 2 officers, a woman with calm eyes and a man who kept glancing at the bruises spreading across my arms. They took photos. Asked questions. Asked more questions. Wrote everything down. Then the female officer said something I'll never forget. "Hunter, you're not going back there." She meant it. Carl and Amy meant it. Leo meant it. And somewhere out on the snowy, dark street, my old life with my father and brother, the life where I was the family punching bag and Damon was the golden child, was beginning to crack. But I had no idea yet just how completely it was about to shatter. Because while the police were filing reports, while I was lying on the couch fighting dizziness, while Leo guarded me like I was treasure that needed protecting, my mom was 4 hours away in Grand Rapids, sitting beside my sick grandmother's hospital bed, totally unaware that her youngest child had nearly frozen to death. But by morning, she would know everything. And then the real storm would hit. I woke up sometime past sunrise, wrapped in 2 blankets that smelled faintly like laundry detergent and the cinnamon candle Amy always burned in December. Every part of me ached. My ribs felt like someone had stored bowling balls inside them. My face throbbed in slow pulses. Even blinking hurt. Carl was already up, pacing the kitchen like a storm trapped indoors. I heard him muttering things like, "Son of a," and "I'll bury him myself," which honestly made me feel oddly safe. Amy hovered nearby with that worried mom energy she radiated even at full calm. She brought me warm water and some scrambled eggs I could barely swallow. Leo sat across from me, elbows on the table, staring like he couldn't decide whether to hug me or punch someone on my behalf. "So," he finally said, "we're definitely calling CPS today." I groaned. "Do we have to?" Carl answered before anyone else. "Yes. Yes, we do. This wasn't a shove or a bad argument. This was hospital-grade assault, and I'm not letting that bastard get away with it." He said it with the tone of a man who builds houses for a living and occasionally fantasizes about demolishing one with his bare hands. Around 10 a.m., we drove to an urgent care clinic so a doctor could officially document the injuries. She checked my ribs, my concussion, my bruises, and gave me that look adults give kids who've clearly been through hell. "Hunter," she said softly, "I'm required to report this. And honestly, I would even if I wasn't." Carl nodded like, "Good. Let them come. Let the system kick down the door." But then came the question everyone had been avoiding. "Has your mother been notified?" I swallowed. "No. She's dealing with my grandma. I didn't want to pile this on." "Kid," Carl said, "she's your mother. She deserves to know." And he didn't wait for me to agree. He stepped outside, dialed her number, and paced the parking lot. Through the glass doors, I watched his shoulders rise and fall as he explained everything: the watch, the beating, the blizzard, the police. I couldn't hear her words, but I heard the volume. Carl came back in and handed me the phone. "Hunter?" Mom's voice was breaking. "Baby, tell me what happened." I told her everything. Slowly. Painfully. My throat tightened halfway through, and she just listened, not interrupting, not trying to rationalize, not minimizing. When I finally stopped talking, there was a long, horrible silence. Then she said, with a steadiness that scared me more than the storm I'd walked through, "I'm driving home now. Stay with Carl and Amy. Do not go anywhere near that house. I'll be there in 4 hours." I hung up and tried not to picture her hands shaking on the steering wheel, or the fire building behind her eyes. We went back to Leo's. I rested. Leo played video games next to me, offering commentary like he was trying to distract a wounded animal. Then, around 2:40 p.m., headlights flashed across the window. Mom's car. The door opened hard enough that the coat rack jumped. She stepped inside, saw my face, and stopped breathing for a full second. Then she held my cheek softly, so softly it almost hurt more, and looked me over like she was cataloging every bruise, every cut, every awful detail. Her voice, when it finally came, was ice-cold steel. "Thank you," she told Carl and Amy, "for taking care of my son. I need to borrow your phone. Mine hasn't stopped ringing and I need to make calls without interruptions." Amy handed it over instantly. Mom walked into the kitchen, closed the door, and began dialing. I only heard pieces, sharp, clipped phrases sliding under the door. "I want to file immediately. Yes, grounds, spousal neglect and child endangerment. No, I don't care how messy it gets. Emergency custody, today. Yes. All assets frozen. She was a bookkeeper. A numbers person. A quiet, practical woman who managed chaos with spreadsheets and sticky notes. But in that moment, she sounded like someone planning a controlled detonation. 90 minutes later, she walked out looking like she just finished assembling a war machine. "Hunter," she said calmly, "we're leaving. I've filed for divorce. I've filed for custody. And your father is about to learn the consequences of hurting my child." My heart skipped. "Mom, you don't have to destroy everything over me." She put a hand on my shoulder, gentler now. "No. I don't have to. I want to. I should have done this years ago." I didn't know it yet, but that was the moment everything truly turned. What Dad had done was the spark. What Mom was about to do, that was the wildfire. Mom did not go back to the house. She didn't even drive past it. Instead, she checked us into a Holiday Inn by the highway, a beige, slightly depressing place with vending machines older than I was. But it felt like a fortress. No yelling. No accusations. No walking on eggshells. Just the steady hum of the AC unit, and my mom sitting at the tiny desk, phone in hand, building a legal tsunami. Her lawyer, Ruth, arrived at the hotel the next morning. Picture a sweet grandmother who bakes cookies, except the cookies are subpoenas and the sweetness is a trap. That was Ruth. 5 feet tall, pearls, floral cardigan, eyes like she'd sued entire cities just to stay sharp. "Hunter," she said, shaking my hand gently, "I'm very sorry for what you've been through. I'll be handling everything from here." Translation: Your dad is about to experience consequences he didn't know existed. The emergency custody hearing was Wednesday, only 4 days after the incident. Mom insisted I didn't have to testify, but I wanted to. My hands were shaking through the whole thing, but I did it. The judge saw the photos. Saw the medical report. Heard the police statement. Read through my notebook documenting 42 separate false accusations from Damon. He looked at my father's empty seat, because Dad didn't show, and signed the papers on the spot. Temporary full custody awarded to the mother. The father is barred from contact pending further investigation. Mom exhaled for the first time in days. But Ruth wasn't done. Not even close. Asset division came next. Michigan's a no-fault divorce state, but when a parent assaults a child, that changes the power dynamic significantly. I'll never forget the evening Mom showed me the spreadsheet Ruth had prepared, rows and rows of assets, accounts, valuations, retirement contributions, insurance policies. "This is everything your father and I share," she said. "And since he used our home to abuse you, I'm taking the house, the car, half his retirement, and the savings." She said it in the same tone someone uses to read off a grocery list. Calm. Focused. Deadly. "What about Damon?" I asked. She paused. "He's 16. Old enough to choose where he wants to live. But he won't be coming near you." I didn't argue. I didn't want him near me either. Over the next 2 weeks, Ruth filed everything she could legally file: motions, freezes, injunctions, requests for expedited hearings. She moved like she'd been waiting her whole career for a case this clean and a target this deserving. By the time Dad realized what was happening, half of his accounts were frozen and the house was under exclusive use orders in Mom's name. He tried calling. Tried texting. Tried leaving voicemails full of rage and self-pity and the usual garbage about my son betraying me. Mom blocked every number. 3 weeks after the beating, Mom drove us to the old house during the day, while Dad was at work, to collect my belongings. She told me to stay in the car. I watched through the windshield as she went inside and came back with 3 giant trash bags. "My clothes?" I asked. "Everything of yours," she said. "Your books, your drums, school stuff, all of it." "What about Dad?" Her jaw tightened. "He can keep his tools." That night, in the hotel room, she said quietly, "We're starting over, Hunter. A new apartment. A safer place. No more shouting. No more fear. For the first time in years, I believed her. But even with the bruises fading and nights finally quiet again, there was one thing stuck in my chest like a splinter. Damon. He'd started all of this with one lie. He'd watched Dad hit me. He'd smiled while I lay on the floor bleeding. He'd watched the door close behind me and locked it. While I was rebuilding my life, he was still living comfortably in the house like nothing had happened. One Saturday in January, Leo came over to play video games. I stared at the screen but wasn't really seeing it. I need to deal with Damon, I said. Leo paused the game. Dude, what do you mean deal with? I mean I want consequences. Real ones. Not just Dad losing his mind and Mom leaving. Damon needs to face what he's done. Leo thought about that, eyes narrowing. Okay, but how? I pulled out the notebook. The one with the 42 documented lies. I think he's been lying about more than just stuff at home. Leo tilted his head. Like school stuff? Exactly. This was the moment everything shifted. The anger sharpened. The fear evaporated. Something colder took its place. I wasn't going to be his scapegoat anymore. I was going to expose him. Truly. Fully. Publicly. Leo raised an eyebrow. You're planning something. Yeah, I said, flipping open the notebook. And I need your help. What happened next? Let's just say Damon finally picked a fight with someone who could hit back, but not with fists. With the truth. It started small. A question here. A casual comment there. Leo asking around at school with the kind of subtlety only a teenager can pull off, which is to say, none at all, but somehow, it worked. Within a week, whispers drifted back to us. Damon always knows when tests are coming. He never studies, but his grades never drop. He helped my cousin fix her chem grade once, for cash. Cash? That was new. But the real break came from Lana, Leo's older cousin, a junior who had nothing to lose and a talent for noticing things teachers wished she didn't. I've seen him in the computer lab, she told us. Same terminal every time. Back corner. He clears the history before he leaves. That was all I needed. We made a plan. Lana would go to the computer lab during the same free period Damon always used. She'd sit at a computer facing him, pretending to do homework, while recording everything through her phone hidden inside a textbook. The first attempt? He didn't show. Second attempt? He showed but did nothing. Third attempt? Magic. 8 minutes of crystal clear video showing Damon logging into the grading portal using administrator credentials he absolutely wasn't supposed to have. Watching him navigate to his transcript and change a B in chemistry to an A-. Watching him erase absences. Watching his GPA tick upward like stocks in a good economy. Timestamp visible. Username visible. His stupid smug face visible. But one video wasn't enough. Damon was slippery. Good at twisting things. Good at playing the victim. So I needed more. I created a burner email and posed as a desperate sophomore named Josh, looking to boost his grades. I kept it simple. Hey man, heard you do grade fixes. Need help? He replied in 37 minutes. Yeah, I can help. What do you need? Within a week I had his price list. His before/after screenshots. Emails from 6 students he'd helped. Proof of payments via Venmo and cash receipts. His step-by-step instructions for accessing the portal. It was like he wanted to get caught. Like he'd grown so confident in Dad covering for him that consequences were just hypothetical. Leo and I built folders. Cross-referenced timestamps. Mapped out every grade change. 49 unauthorized entries over 7 months. Attendance edits. Fabricated club participation. Fake volunteer hours. Damon wasn't just cheating. He had built an entire fictional version of himself on paper. And the school bought it. But they weren't going to buy it much longer. Because the Valentine's Day award ceremony was coming up. The one packed with parents, teachers, school board members, and local press who loved a feel-good story about exemplary students. Damon was set to receive Academic Excellence Award, Perfect Attendance Award, Peer Leadership Award. Peer Leadership. I couldn't have written better irony if I tried. That was my deadline. February 14th. Mom and I sat in the back row of the packed gym while Damon worked the crowd like he was running for office. Dad sat front row, practically glowing, his one remaining source of pride. Then the ceremony began. Principal Ortega spoke about integrity and academic honesty, and I nearly choked on my own laughter. They called names, handed out certificates. Applause echoed through the gym in waves. Then they called Damon Parker for peer leadership, the award meant for students with strong moral character. He strutted up to the stage, shook Ortega's hand, posed for the camera, and gave the audience this mildly inspirational smile like he was auditioning for a toothpaste commercial. I stood, walked down the aisle, and approached the principal right on stage. She recognized me instantly. "Hunter? Do you need something?" "Yes," I said. "I have something you need to see. Right now." The gym fell quiet. Damon froze. Dad stood up so fast his chair screeched. I pulled a USB from my pocket. "It's all here," I said calmly. 7 months of grade tampering. Unauthorized system access. Videos. Emails. Screenshots. Timestamps. You could have heard a pencil drop. Principal Ortega took the USB carefully, like it was a bomb with a loose timer. "What exactly are you alleging?" "I'm not alleging," I said. "I'm proving. Damon has been altering academic records for himself and 6 other students. 49 unauthorized changes. Attendance manipulation. Fake extracurriculars. All supported by video and digital logs." Someone in the crowd gasped dramatically, like a soap opera extra who'd been waiting their whole life for this moment. Mom stepped beside me, voice steady. "I recommend checking Terminal 7 in the computer lab. You'll find the matching access logs." I handed over a second USB. A full analysis. Cross-referenced. Organized. Bulletproof. Ortega stared at it, then at Damon. "Damon," she said quietly, "come with me." He opened his mouth, maybe to deny, maybe to cry, maybe to blame me again, but nothing came out but a choked sound. Dad tried charging forward, but security blocked him. "This is a school matter, Mr. Parker. Sit down." And just like that, the facade shattered. The golden boy fell. And everyone saw it happen. The fallout over the next 48 hours? Nuclear. Expulsion. Investigation. Prosecutor involvement. College acceptances revoked. Charges considered. Damon's entire future, his fake, shiny, carefully constructed future, collapsed like a card house in a hurricane. But even that was only phase 1. Because Dad was about to learn that the sun he threw into a blizzard wasn't the weak one. He was the beginning of his downfall. The school board acted fast, faster than anyone expected. By 8 a.m. the next morning, Damon was suspended. By noon, the IT director had pulled logs proving every portal access. By 6 p.m., an emergency board meeting was held. By the next morning, Damon was expelled. Not suspended. Not disciplined. Expelled. They even sent a district-wide notice about a serious breach of academic integrity. They didn't name him, but everybody in Lansing could do the math. His college acceptances vanished within 48 hours. One school even emailed a PDF saying, "Due to documented academic dishonesty, this applicant is permanently barred from reapplying." Leo showed me that one with a whistle. Bro, they cooked him. But the investigation didn't end at GPA fraud. The county prosecutor got involved. Turns out, when you use stolen admin credentials to alter school records, that's, well, several crimes. They seized Damon's laptop and phone. Found everything. Emails. Payments. A whole little black market menu of services. When the dust settled, Damon pled guilty to reduced charges. 2 years probation. 300 hours community service. Permanent academic misconduct record. Misdemeanor for computer misuse. The felony charges got dropped in a plea deal, but trust me, no college admissions office in the country was touching him. He went from future Ivy League candidate to guy working the fry station at midnight. And Dad? Oh, Dad was unraveling. The assault charges Carl filed were moving through the courts. Dad's lawyer wanted a plea deal. Ruth, sweet, cardigan-wearing mob boss Ruth, said absolutely not. Your father isn't getting a slap on the wrist, she told us. He's getting documentation. The judge agreed. Dad ended up with 1 year probation. Mandatory anger management. A protective order keeping him 500 feet away from me. A permanent assault record. The judge even told him, "You beat your 13-year-old son bloody because you believed a lie. The only reason you aren't serving jail time is that your ex-wife requested leniency." Dad didn't even look up. Then came the divorce. Michigan has a mandatory waiting period, but that didn't stop the financial avalanche. Mom got half the retirement, the savings, the car, the furniture, child support, the house sale proceeds. Dad got his tools, his truck, the pleasure of paying Damon's legal fees. His life fell apart in slow motion. The body shop cut his hours. No one wanted to bring their car to the guy who beat his kid. His second job at the convenience store barely covered the restitution payments. Word got around. Small towns have big mouths. He and Damon moved into a roach-infested apartment above a laundromat. Leo's cousin said the heat barely worked. The walls were so thin you could hear the neighbors sneeze. Damon's car got repossessed. Dad's truck kept breaking down. Their electricity was shut off, twice. The Golden Boy's glow faded fast when there was no one left to blame. And the final humiliation? During Mom's divorce deposition, Ruth questioned Damon under oath. "Did you destroy the watch?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "Why?" "I wanted to pawn it. Then I blamed Hunter when it broke." Dad didn't speak to Damon for 2 weeks after that. Imagine losing your marriage, your house, your money, your community, and the last shreds of your reputation, then finding out the whole disaster started because your favorite son lied, again. There's a word for that, poetic. Meanwhile, I healed. My ribs stopped aching. My concussion faded. My sleep got better. Mom found us a small house in a better district. Quiet street. Friendly neighbors. My room had a window that looked out on a maple tree. For the first time in years, I didn't sleep with my arms curled protectively around my chest. I joined the new school's music program, started drumming again. Got A's and B's. Made honor roll. Life felt possible. One night in May, Mom and I were eating takeout when her phone rang. "Dad." She put it on speaker. "What do you want, Dennis?" His voice was small. Scraped out. Exhausted. I want to talk to Hunter. Please." Mom looked at me. I shook my head. "You lost that right?" she said. "You threw him into a blizzard. You beat him bloody. You believed a liar over your son." "I know," Dad whispered. "I know. I ruined everything. I'm sorry. I just want him to know I'm sorry." Mom hung up. Blocked the number. Looked at me. "You okay?" And for the first time, I said it and meant it. "Yeah. I am." Because I realized something. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need Dad to grovel. I didn't need Damon to suffer. I just needed to build a life where they didn't matter anymore. And I was already doing it. By the time I turned 18, my life looked nothing like the storm I'd crawled out of. The bruises were gone. The nightmares rarer. The shaking in my hands when someone raised their voice? almost a memory. Mom and I had built something real. Small, but ours. Stable. Quiet in all the places that used to be loud with fear. She kept her new job. I kept my new school. We kept each other. The morning of my high school graduation, she cried 3 separate times before we even left the house. Once because she found an old photo of me at age 10 in a school band shirt. Once because she ironing my gown made it feel real. And once because she saw me standing in the living room and said, "You survived what should have broken you. I'm proud of you, Hunter. More than you know." Carl and Amy came to the ceremony. Leo came with a handmade sign that said, "Hunter drums and also rules," which was definitely not true about the drums part, but I appreciated the enthusiasm. When I walked on stage to receive my diploma, the gym felt warm instead of terrifying. The applause felt earned. My name sounded different in the air, not as an accusation or an insult or a punchline. Just me. A real person. A kid who clawed his way into adulthood and somehow didn't come out bitter or broken. Afterward, Mom insisted on taking at least 1,000 pictures. Me with Leo. Me with Carl and Amy. Me holding my diploma so tight it bent. At one point, Mom hugged me and whispered, "You did this. You made a life out of nothing they gave you." I didn't correct her. But there was one moment that sealed it. While we were taking pictures near the exit, I saw a familiar face across the parking lot. Lana, Leo's cousin, the one who'd helped me get the footage that took Damon down. She gave me a small, knowing nod. "Congratulations," her expression said. "And also, you earned this." I nodded back. As for Dad and Damon, I never saw them again. Sometimes I heard rumors: Dad working double shifts at the gas station, Damon getting fired from 3 different fast food jobs, their apartment leaking, the neighbors complaining about shouting. It didn't make me happy. It didn't make me sad. It just didn't affect me anymore. Their downfall wasn't my victory. My life was. College came next. I got a scholarship, not because someone faked my grades, but because I'd worked hard enough to deserve one. I majored in music education, partly because drums saved my sanity more than once, and partly because I'd had so few adults in my corner growing up that I wanted to become that person for someone else. One semester in, I caught myself laughing, really laughing, surrounded by people who didn't know anything about my past. They just knew me. Just Hunter. The kid who liked music, who liked quiet mornings, who always borrowed pens and never returned them. I wasn't a punching bag. Or a scapegoat. Or a shadow behind the golden child. I was just me. Alive. Healing. Moving forward. And the best part? They became irrelevant. Dad and Damon were once the constants in my life, the sources of fear, the architects of pain. But with every new friend I made, every class I passed, every song I played on my drum kit, they shrank into the background. Not villains. Not monsters. Just 2 people I used to know. 2 people whose choices no longer defined me. Mom and I built something they couldn't destroy with fists or lies or storms. A life. A future. A home. And honestly, we're doing pretty great.